conversation. We're going to sort of have a conversation with each other, which might give an insight into what we do. So if you're going to be buying a property, or you're looking to invest in a property or extend a property, there are certain key things you need to think about. Obviously, the purchase price is the most important thing, especially if you're going to do work on a property. It's essential you buy it at the right price. But when you buy a property, you need to know how much it's going to cost to do any refurbishments and works. And a lot of people think it's going to be cheaper than it is. So it's really important that when you do that you speak to an expert to give you an indication. So that's something, Eric, that when someone's looking to buy, they're going to. What sort of things would you say?
Exactly. So when very often I work with developers, and so my initial advice is for free. So if anybody has got a question when purchasing a property, give me a call anytime. I usually give advice on the possibility of extending, converting, and give you a ballpark figure about the cost of it and what the process will be. Because one thing is planning, but on the other hand, you need to deal with construction and building control, which means building regulations have to be looked after and those kinds of things. So I cover all that, also with all professionals that are attached to it. So let's say party wall surveyor, structure engineer, any specialist engineers. I can help with that and can suggest and bring them into the home.
Yes. One of the things that we've spoken about is how you're saying that people will buy a property with the view that they can do work to it, do an extension, and they don't really understand the cost of it. So, is that what you find?
Yes, absolutely. I think a good rule of thumb is obviously if you do things on the cheap side, it costs you a lot more later on, because after a couple of years, if not even 12 months already, you have to redo a lot of things. So you think you're saving money, and after 12 months, the ceiling starts dripping and so on.
But when you're doing your design,
yes.
When people ask you, let's say for planning permission, they want to know about, they just want to get planning permission, but what they're not doing is asking you to do a specification, so being detailed on what needs to be done to the property. So an architect can do plans and get you planning permission, but they might not necessarily give you a specification of what needs to be done on the document that you can use to give to a builder who's going to give you a price on what it's going to cost.
Yeah, this is the so-called schedule of works, which becomes part of the contract as well that you're doing with the contractor, which basically later, should there be an issue, you have usually 6 years guarantee on the works, clearly laid out on the schedule of works, and then the contractor has to come back and fix the damage.
But also in terms of building regulations, and making sure if you don't have detailed specification on your design plans, you're not going to know what the builders are not going to comply with building regulations.
Previously, exactly. This usually when it comes to before construction, before you appoint a contractor, you have a whole set of drawings with details on them. You send them off to building control. They will review the drawings and will tell you, no, this is wrong. You need to change it. Or great, let's go ahead. It will be signed off. Yeah. That's what the point is.
All right. And in terms of once you get permission to do. Once you've bought the property, then you need to think about it being project managed. Now you can employ an architect to do it, you can employ a project manager to do it, but that's something to really think about, because when you're trying to do it yourself, you think you know what you're doing, but dealing with contractors, dealing with payment schedules, sometimes surveyors will do it. For instance, a surveyor will come in and they'll do staged payments, they'll sign off on each stage. Or an architect will sign off, is that right?
Yes, so basically we work with developers who are obviously quite experienced and deal with themselves. However, they have private clients as well, have no idea. And we do tailor-made packages to aid and to support any client in that process, depending on what level of help they need. And we do provide valuations, which then either goes to the quantity surveyor, or we manage the contract as well. There's a whole range of things that can be done.
So, if you're buying something for an investment, so let's say you're buying to let it, so obviously cost is important. So when you buy something, you're looking at two things. Are you buying it for equity appreciation, or are you buying it for rental income? If you're buying it for equity appreciation, then obviously you've got a different mindset for the rental income, because it's not going to be as good. So very often they're very different. So clients might buy a property that's not going to appreciate a lot in equity, but it's going to get better rental income. So these are factors to take into consideration. And also, obviously, you're looking at how much it's going to cost to do the works, and also how to finance it. And that's something that all of us can help you with. So in terms of the service side as well, Natasha here would come in once the property is coming towards the end stages, and you would advise the clients on what sort of things, Natasha?
Well, it depends, again, what type of client and what they're trying to achieve. We've had clients where during the build process they don't want to be around, they don't want to live around dust. In those scenarios, we can help them move out into temporary accommodation, and when the building work is complete, we can move them back in. Or if it's a scenario where they have tenants, if it's for investment, for example, obviously we can help their tenants, and we always provide free quotes, as you know. We will provide a range of services, be it packing, fully packing, partial packing. We provide the materials, and we can also store for them if needs be, which is things that we've done quite often.
Is that when they, for instance, there's a gap between moving?
Yeah, sometimes if people are moving to temporary accommodation, they don't want to take all of their stuff. They'll just take essentially what they'll need during that period of time, and we'll do long-term storage for them, which is out of London, so it works out quite reasonably for the client. So we will do that in any scenario that they need. Myself as a company, my seat is removals here, but we provide a range of property services that will support the work that Mark, Eric and Danielle are doing. Danielle, sorry.
And so what sort of services are they?
When it comes to, if it's for investment, for example, how are you going to show your property? How are you going to get your tenants in? Or if it's a development, how are you going to sell your units? It needs to be something that's furnished, needs to be furnished well, it needs to be attractive to whatever demographic
So if somebody's doing like a show flat or would you supply the furnishing?
We can supply it and make it look like it's a habitable apartment, so we do quite a bit of that work as well. And part of that, some developers have their own furniture that they like to reuse, so we store that furniture for them. We can bring their own, or we can help supply, so we can store, bring it in, install, assemble, put everything together, dress the property, and where we need to, we reach out to the trades power team to be able to assist with painting, decorating, and all that good stuff.
Thanks, Natasha. And Danielle,
yes.
In terms of inventories, what sort of, do you do inventories obviously for rental properties?
Yes.
So how soon before the tenancy starts do you go in? And
so I'd say the best thing to do is to have an inventory done either the day before the tenancy starts or the day the actual tenancy starts. This means that the inventory record is aligned with the start date of the tenancy agreement, and at the end of the tenancy you also have the best possibility of proving the actual condition that the keys were handed over in and that the property was handed over in as well.
do you have any issues sometimes when tenants move in and they haven't seen everything? You do a check-in inventory?
Yeah, so as well as having the inventory done, there's also a check-in process. So if you have an inventory clerk that comes in and does an inspection on the property, creates a detailed inventory, it's also really important to ensure that you have a decent check-in as well. This is something that I do myself, and you go through the whole inventory report with the tenant present as well, so they're aware of any defects, damages, any minor repairs, because properties, they're not always perfect. As much as the letting agent will always try their best to get it as perfect as possible, there are always small things that they need to be made aware of, and it's also imperative to make sure that's included in the inventory so that the tenant's aware, the landlord's aware, and the letting agent is aware as well.
Do you ever get involved in disputes?
I do get involved in disputes. At the end of the tenancy, I'll go in and do a checkout inspection. This is where I will use the original inventory report and record the end of tenancy condition. So if there are any damages, any Maintenance issues, it's down to me to make a judgment as to whether there's fair wear and tear, or whether the tenant is liable, or whether it's a maintenance issue. So yeah, that's the means of preventing a dispute from happening, and it means that an impartial service will ensure that both the landlord and the letting agent aren't involved in making that final decision as to whether each party is liable, and it helps the process go a lot smoother as well.
Thanks very much, Danielle. Thank you for listening.